Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I am joined by the Renaissance woman, Hyan. How are you doing today?
Good. It's like getting close.
It is. It is. Well, as you kind of alluded to, you have a lot of stuff coming up, but primarily we're here to talk about something very exciting coming up this weekend on May 13th, which is an all-women show entitled Queen of the Indies in collaboration with West Coast Pro and Pro Wrestling Revolution. Of course, a big part of that show is the Queen of the Indies tournament, pitting 8 of the Indies' best performers against each other, including yourself. You will start off the tournament against the Russian Dynamite Masha Slamovich in the opening round, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is only your second singles match against each other.
Yeah, that's correct. Like the first time we wrestled, it was right when she came back from Marvelous. And it
Yeah,
was still like pandemic time. Since then, we've both definitely evolved as people, characters, and in-ring work. So I'm really excited to see the kind of magic we can create.
yeah, I think it's kind of fitting. Yeah, it was February of 2021. She had just came back at like the end of January, I think, back to the States from Marvelous. Obviously, a lot of Marvelous reps will be here at Queen of the Indies. We'll get to that in a second. But as you said, you two have grown a lot since then in just over the 2 years since she's now signed to Impact. You've been literally everywhere, my friend. So, what are your thoughts heading into this match, and what do you think fans can expect from you two?
I think I'm kind of going into this situation as the underdog, right? Because she is the West Coast Women's Champion. And I'm aware of what her resume is. She's a very strong competitor. She hits really hard. So I'm bringing my A game. I'm studying my opponent, and I'm looking to have probably the biggest upset of the entire tournament.
It's crazy to hear. I get where you're coming from. Obviously she's an Impact GCW world champion West Coast. It's crazy to think that you are an underdog because you've established yourself. I think honestly the top of there is without like the top of the indies, I would think, of non-signed talent. You were at the very, very top. So it's kind of crazy to think that you kind of are the underdog because you've just been so affluent in everything. So I'm super exciting for this. But obviously, you are no stranger to tournaments. Last year, you conquered the Sherry Martel Classic, which I spoke to you about, and you rightfully were awarded your crown. But I feel like the stakes are raised even higher for the Queen of the Indies because it's a big title to have the Queen of the entire Indies. So, what would this mean to you to win this tournament now?
I think it will validate what I already feel about myself. I have a lot of confidence in myself and I believe in myself a lot, almost to a delusional standpoint. But I feel like it would validate all those feelings that I have for myself and how my peers and my friends see me. And not that like what other people think
Yeah.
matters, but it's always nice to have that recognition of, you are at the top of your game and it's the Queen of the Indies and it's not a American focused tournament. Like
Yeah.
there are other competitors from different countries. So winning that tournament speaks more because of the level of talent and where the talent comes from. It's incredible.
I know it's all encompassing, but kind of focusing in on something you just said, you have this confidence, you can see it in your work, but it's not always easy to get there. And actually today, at the time of recording this, is your 9 year mark
Yeah.
since entering Row in the beginning of your wrestling journey. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but talking about the confidence aspect, starting out, things come with age and with time and stuff. But how do you think that you have reached this confidence, or what do you attribute that you've now found this confidence? How do you think you found it?
Um for the longest time I literally just had to fake it. I would watch my matches back, especially when I first started, having matches, getting out there. I would look at myself and I would compare myself to others. And I was like, why do they look so much cooler than me? And it's just because they carried themselves with this like air of confidence that I just didn't have at the time. And I'm a naturally like introverted person. So being very like showy, which is pro wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Um, didn't come very naturally to me. So I literally would fake it. especially in situations where I was like, this could go really, I don't know what's going to happen in the ring. Like, I don't know what's going on. Especially in those situations,
Yeah.
the confidence would be so high. We're portraying it, but really it was not there. And almost like faking it till you make it, it became um like ingrained and natural because like I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can fake this feeling even if I don't really have it. And then eventually you have the feeling and then you're put in situations where you're like, whoa, can I keep up with this person? Can I can I have the match that I want to have? Is it what I have in here? Is can I execute it? And then when
Yeah.
you go and do it, it just brings that confidence level up even more. And that's kind of how it's just kind of built. It was definitely a skill that had to be learned. It wasn't
Oh
natural
yeah.
to me.
Oh, I get that. You had to fake it, but now you've made it.
Yeah.
That's something I've heard and I tried to do as well. Sometimes I'm curious, has there been a certain situation where you were like maybe fearful or anxious that you recall like faking it until you made it, or that got, but it because you faked that confidence that got you through it. And then ultimately at the end, you're like, oh, I actually feel okay out of this.
Yeah, there's really like there's this one
Okay.
particular match that stands out in my mind. So it was ladies night out and it was in Houston, Texas, and I was wrestling Mercedes Martinez
Oh
for the very
yeah.
first time. And I've done seminars with her. And, I've known her from Rise, I've known her from Shimmer, like super OG vet, super incredibly talented. And I was so nervous for this match. Like to the point that I was like, I didn't eat the whole day because I was scared I was gonna throw up from like the anxiety of it all. And I was like texting my friends. I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. Like, no, you got it. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So we're talking about the match, and really, we hadn't really discussed a whole lot of ideas or anything like that. And Mercedes not is not the kind of person to plan out an entire match, and she's like that's just not her style. And I really had to go in with a lot of like ambiguity going. I don't know what's going to happen. And I thought that we had more time before the match. Then all of a sudden, I hear her music playing.
Oh my God. You're
like
like, oh shit.
Like when I tell you, like my stomach absolutely dropped. I thought I
Yeah.
was gonna die. I was like, oh, I'm gonna shit the bed, dude. She's gonna be like, oh, this is Hyan. Wow. Like, will you have her on Shimmer? Wow. Like I was like, every worst case scenario was going through my head. And the music plays and she just looks back at me and like smiles and she goes, well, I guess I'll just see you out there, huh? And I was like, mm-hmm. So I go out there. I remember like my entrance, I was like, I just need to like take my time. And if I look like I know what I'm doing, then everyone will also think that I know what I'm doing, but I have no clue. And we go through the match, and Mercedes again couldn't sing her praise anymore. She's awesome. We get through the match, and it went really, really well. Like to the point that like when the match was over, I started crying because I was so happy with it, and I didn't think I could pull it off, and I pulled it off, and I remember I get to the back and she's giving me my critiques and I'm like, and she goes, yeah, I knew when our match was, by the way. I just kind of wanted to see how you would
Oh
react.
wow.
And I was like, don't ever do that to me again. But she like gave me a hug and she's like, come here, you cry baby. She's like, you did a really good job. And that made me cry even more, obviously. But I was just so happy that I got that experience and being able to like keep up with her. I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do this.
Oh yeah, you can Hyan. You're kind of the veteran now in a lot of instances. Now almost 9 years under your belt since your debut. It's crazy to think about. It's almost a decade. But you mentioned Shimmer, and that's really relevant because another part of this Queen of the Indies is Nicole Savoy is officially coming out of retirement to compete in a 6-woman tag team match. Nicole is obviously a huge part of the Shimmer family, a former Shimmer champion. You've gotten to share a locker room with her a few times. I know you've wrestled her once before, I believe. So I'm curious to know if you have any memorable encounters you've had with Nicole, or if not, can you kind of give some thoughts on her work in general? I'm excited for her comeback, I guess.
I'm excited. I was like when I saw the flyer, I was like, wait a minute, I thought you retired.
Yeah.
Because I actually saw her maybe like a month to a few weeks after she had retired.
Yeah.
And we were in California and I was talking to her and I was like, "Are you gonna miss it? Like, what's going on?" And she's just like, "Yeah, I think I'll miss it, but I think I'm done. I think I'm done." So when I saw the tweet, I was like so surprised. And I was like, "Dang, I really hope I get to wrestle her," because we've never had a singles. Like
No.
I think the only time we ever interacted was in a tag, and
Yeah.
when I first started at Shimmer, like she was always super inviting, always created such a great locker room environment, and I really can't say enough good things about her. Like she was the very first like Heart of Shimmer champion, then to become a Shimmer champion, and just everything that she's done. She's been to Japan a million times and the UK, and the girls that are in the women that are in that tag match. Like you guys are so lucky. Not just because of Nicole, but
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah.
match is insane. But you guys get to get in the ring with Nicole Savoy, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and like you said, this Queen of the Indies event isn't just the US, it's encompassing Mexico, Japan, we have representatives from Marvelous. So, kind of besides outside of your own match against Masha, is there any performer or matchup on the card you're most looking forward to seeing, or possible matchup, I should say, to seeing, and why?
Chigusa Nagayo, because I haven't
Yeah,
seen her since I was in Marvelous.
four
And
years ago. Crazy.
yeah, and she's such a like motherly figure, but she's also like you would think because she's like this super OG like
Mhm.
legend, like heart like top tier, not just wrestler, not just women's wrestler, but wrestler, period. Like you would think she'd be kind of like old and stiff and like super serious,
Yeah.
but she's really not. Like she's really funny. Um I remember like one of the very first conversations I've had with her. She like turned we were in the car and she turns back at me and she's like, speak Spanish, right? And she's like, I was like, yeah. And she just looks at me, she goes, Chinga su madre. And I died laughing, which means like in
Yeah,
Spanish.
okay.
And I was like, okay, like you're super cool.
Mhm.
And she was at West Coast, I believe a couple months ago as well, and Brian Keith was there, and he's like a huge like All Japan fan, like All Japan women's fan. And I messaged him and I was like, dude, like make sure you get a picture with Chigusa Nagai. Like tell her I said hi. And he messaged me back with the photo and he goes, she says hi to her daughter. And I was like, oh, because that's what she would always call us. She's like, you guys are my daughters. So I'm so excited for that reunion.
Yeah, me too. And I believe she's leading a seminar 2 days before Queen of the Indies, and then West Coast Pro will be also holding marvelous tryouts ahead of the event. One man and one woman will then receive an opportunity to be a part of a marvelous tour in Japan. Like you alluded to, you previously spent 3 months at the Marvelous Dojo in 2019, which you recently said was such a fulfilling experience and helped you grow your love for wrestling. So can you tell me more about some of the things you learned there and how exactly it helped grow your love for wrestling?
Yeah, like the training is intense. Like we've had training twice a day, every day except on show days and I believe the day after show days. But other than that, we were in the dojo training and the sessions were about I think maybe like 2 hours each, so four
Mhm.
hours training a day. And when I would see like the amount of work that the new faces would put into honing their craft and just trying to get it down. And that's where I met Mio. And at the time, she had like a torn ACL. It was like so it was already surgically repaired, but she was like in the process of recovering. This woman is crazy because I would see her still like in the ring, like doing rolls and nipping up just like on one leg. And I was like, I remember being like, Mio, shouldn't you be like resting?
Like,
And
no.
she's like, no, I can't. Because she's like, I can't stay away. Like, even
Yeah.
if I wanted to, I can't. And seeing that kind of commitment to it, like, really makes you go, yeah, I guess there really is no excuse to give it my all when this girl's out here doing rolls on one leg, you know? Maybe not the smartest, but no excuse.
Yeah, and I feel like, Japan is just a whole different breed. Like, I just feel like they're just tougher than every other country, especially in wrestling. They're more hard hitting, it seems like, and strong style is obviously huge in Japan as well. But like we were saying before, this will feature a great variety of independent talent from all across the world. But, of course, the indie circuit is all across the board. Europe, Canada, Mexico, all of the continents with the exclusion of Antarctica, really. So for you, if you could include maybe one or two more competitors who you think would fit into the Queen of the Indies, who would you like to see compete for the crown, or who do you think embodies a possible Queen of the Indies?
I think you're already gonna know like my first answer,
Is it?
Giselle.
Yeah.
It's Giselle, like Canadian Queen, been to the UK, former Progress, Rev Pro Women's Champion, and now an Impact. Like she is like I want to, like I know she's an Impact and she's such a star there, but I would love to see her really just take over like the American independent scene because she's done it in Canada, she's done it in
Yeah.
the UK,
I
and
mean,
that's what she's
Masha's doing
capable.
that, so like Giselle, she needs to get on that.
I need to make some calls and be like, we got to get Giselle because I just think she's so great
I
and
know.
she's so talented.
I know. I was expecting you to say Rachel as well because you two, that would have been to see if this rivalry was ignited again. I think, how many times do you think you've wrestled Rachel at this point?
More than 10 for sure.
Yeah.
More than 10 for sure. Like so many times.
Yeah.
So many
I'd have to
times.
go double check Cage Badge, but even then, I'm sure there's a couple more that they haven't included because it's
Mhm,
sometimes hard to get the records.
mhm.
But yeah, you two are just chemistry, and obviously Giselle. I wish that I don't believe there's any UK representation in this tournament. But maybe next year at West Coast Pro. But we were talking about some of the growth that you've made before. You've evolved a lot as a performer, and like we said, today is 9 years since you walked into reality of wrestling to start your wrestling journey. So, reflecting back on your time in wrestling so far, confidence is obviously a huge part of it. But how do you think that you've grown as a person and as a competitor during that time?
I feel like as a person, I've kind of learned to like not compare myself to others, especially because there's so many different paths in wrestling and it can take you like your path can literally take you anywhere and
No.
no one's path is the same. And you know, doing what makes you happy in wrestling. Like if those are the things that I've kind of wish I knew early on because it would have saved me a lot of heartache. And running in circles, like you don't have to put yourself in a box. Like you can be whoever you want to be in a wrestling ring, and all the like as long as you put in the work, the success will come no matter what. And that's in all parts of life, not just wrestling,
Yeah.
but with wrestling, it's just putting in the work, being happy with what you're doing, and not comparing yourself to others. I feel like that's the key to success, or
Would
to
you
be
s-
happy.
Not to get kind of philosophical, but are you happy with what you're doing right now?
Yeah, to like, I was even telling my husband, I was like, I feel like slightly overwhelmed with just kind of like the success that I've kind of had recently, just because I'm almost don't know how to take it. I'm like, okay, that was cool. And I'm like, all right, like I'm more maybe not like I don't really like the spotlight on me type of person.
The
So
Renaissance woman does, though.
she does. I'm telling you, it's a completely different
I
person.
believe you.
But like getting that spotlight and that recognition, or just people just being like, oh my God, I really want to wrestle you, or just things like that, like it really warms my heart.
You are so like when I was saying at the beginning, I feel like you're literally everywhere. Like not a lot of people have that dipped their toes in like everywhere. Japan, AEW, Impact. I believe you've had a match with WWE before. Like girl, you are literally you've been to the UK. Have you been to Australia? I'm
I
curious.
want to. I was
Okay.
actually talking to like Steph Delander and Kyle Fletcher. I was like, I really want to go to Australia. They're like, you probably could.
We need to get you to Australia. I feel like that's one of the few places you haven't kind of dipped your toe in yet. So
Yeah, and
maybe
I'm
that's
going
next.
to Germany in September.
Is it WXW?
Yeah,
Oh, that's gonna be
for the Femme
exciting.
Fatales tournament. I'm just a
Yes,
tournament queen.
exactly. The European tour is back. I'm assuming it's a tour.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be
Okay.
there for 6 weeks, so it'll be a good time.
That'll be exciting for you. But yeah, like we said, you've had such an amazing journey, but kind of on the opposite end of that, you alluded to it earlier, it's been a journey to get to a lot of these places and where you're at now. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced so far, outside of confidence, of course, we talked about?
Challenges. Hmm, I would say just maintaining that like positive mindset because sometimes Twitter's part of it's part of the game. You have
Yeah,
to promote yourself, you have to kind of be in touch with what's going on, where are the top wrestlers doing, what are the top companies doing, and just that toxicity that can come with that. It can really bring you down. And I'm not the kind of person like I feel like those things typically don't affect me as much as maybe someone else. Like I can see a negative comment about myself and I go, okay, keep
yeah,
going. But it does build up, and keeping that like positive mindset is very difficult. And sometimes, and then even like your matches don't always go as planned, right? And Booker used to say like, okay, if you have a bad match, let it go. Let it go. Like don't hold on to it. He's like, because if you hold on to it, it's gonna follow you to your next match and then follow you to your next
yeah.
match. You won't get better. And that's a big one that I had to learn is just let it go. Just move
Yeah.
on. Keep going.
Not dwelling on stuff is really hard just in life in general.
Yeah, yeah. And that positive mindset is super. I feel like wrestling is a lot more mental than it is physical.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, there's so many moving components in it. There's people on social media, there's your own like insecurities. Like we're all our own worst critics. It's how you think this other person is gonna. There's so much to it. Like I get,
Mhm.
and being on the road away from a lot of sacrifice, I can imagine a lot of
Or
it.
sometimes
But
you come back, you're like, you have a match, and you're like, whoa, that was so good.
yeah,
It was great. And then you watch it back and you go, oh,
you're like,
never.
yeah, yep.
Maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was.
Yeah, but I know that a lot of people are rooting for you heading into this. You said that you're the underdog, but you do have a lot of people rooting for you, including myself. But, your schedule continues to grow. Like you said, you have a European tour coming up in a couple months. You keep yourself obviously pretty busy. What is on the horizon right now for you personally and professionally coming up?
Oh man, I'm really looking forward to wrestling Emi Sakura because we were supposed to wrestle a few weeks ago
Yeah,
at Rock Pro. However, due to flight cancellations, everything delays, it was totally out of everyone's
yeah.
control.
Mhm.
So I'm really looking forward to having that match because she is the Deadlock Women's Champion. She's so talented, her resume, her experience. I I'm desperately looking forward to that match.
Yeah, and while we're kind of looking at the future, we talked about Australia as one. I know you're wanting to go back to Japan. What are some of other of your personal or professional goals for the next year or so?
I was like, it's so funny because I was talking to my husband about it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, every year I write down my goals for
Yeah.
wrestling. And it's like on this running notes app. So I can literally go back to like 2016 and look at what my
Yeah.
goals were back then. And my goals back then were like, I just want to get booked.
Yeah. You don't have that problem. I can tell you that right now.
And then so I was like, I try to reflect and make my new goals. And this year I was like, I've done a lot of what I've wanted to do. Really, for me, is I want to wrestle for New Japan. That's probably my biggest goal. Mercedes Monet is super hot fire. And she's someone that I think for a lot of women in this business, like we look up to you. Like
Yeah.
that Bailey and Sasha match was really like a huge match just for women's wrestling, and it really
Yeah.
gave a lot of independent women's wrestlers something to like aspire to, like that level.
Yeah.
And what she's doing is incredible, and to wrestle in New Japan and do this stardom how she's doing both, girl, you are living my dream.
They did. Oh, they are introducing a New Japan Strong Women's Championship,
Oh, I
which
saw.
seems like it's going to be an international title. We got representation from the States, from Mexico, from Japan. So I'm just saying, like, at
I'm
New
putting my name
Japan.
in that hat. Hey, New Japan,
Exactly.
what's it? Let me
I'm
talk
just
to you real
saying. It
quick.
seems like it's gonna be kind of an international title. You know, they have their little territories in the States. Maybe that'll be the States one. The details of it are still kind of a little unclear, but it seems like it's gonna be kind of an international thing going on. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and I think it's absolutely great because New Japan was always something that I have always been interested in. Like
yeah,
it like when I'm like, oh, let me put on some wrestling. It was always like, oh, like what's going on in New Japan,
yeah,
right? And I never really thought that would even be possible for me to even wrestle on there because they didn't have women on there.
yeah,
Like Stardom was its own thing.
yeah.
Now they're kind of integrating it, and I think that's so cool. And now it's like, oh crap, like that is a possibility. Like let's go for it.
Yeah, and they're slowly but surely building their women's division. Obviously, Mercedes was a big part of the early stages of that. So was Kyrie. But I wanted to talk. I wanted to close out today by taking a little glance back at the past because I don't believe I've discussed this with you before. But I know you previously attended the University of Houston.
I
What
did go
did
through.
what did you study there?
I studied psychology.
I got my
I
bachelor's in psych. Did you finish? Because I
I
know you
did.
started wrestling kind of during the latter half of that.
I did. So, yeah, fun fact. I'm about to sound like a real big nerd, so bear with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to University of Houston. I majored and I got my degree in psychology. I really was wanting to get my PhD in psychology. Like that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, I I did. I got published in a medical journal where I like discussed like the effects of like tobacco and like
Yeah.
worry and all that stuff. And I started wrestling and I was like, do I want to wrestle or do I want to like pursue this? And I was like, I have the rest of my life to get a
Mhm.
PhD. So I'm going to go with wrestling.
So
And that's kind of how it started.
now, do you have your bachelor's and your master's or just your bachelor's right now?
Just my bachelor's. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what's funny is I graduated with a bachelor's in psych too and was set to go on to a path enrolled in grad school and all this for like counseling, whatever. But then, wrestling kind of happened
Yeah.
just
And
on the media side. So it's funny.
it's funny because like whenever I was at U of H, I had this like mentor
Yeah.
and it was like my last semester there and she was like looking at all of us and she was like, how many of you guys are majoring in psych? So a bunch of us raised our hands.
Yeah.
She was like, most of you guys will not have a job in psych. I'm just
Yeah.
letting you
It's
know. Like she's like, it
crazy.
just doesn't happen.
It's
And I
crazy.
was like, I'm gonna get my PhD.
Mhm.
And yeah, I did it.
Yeah, no, like it started out that way. Like I had always been interested in it. Obviously, you seem to be interested in it too, but sometimes life just happens. So,
Yeah.
like here we are in kind of wrestling now integrated in that. I feel like you can use it though, like even like what I'm doing, like talking to you, like getting to know people's backstory. There's in-ring psychology, the storytelling aspect of it to the characters that you can kind of mold. It kind of like it encapsulates some of that in a way, I think.
Yeah. And honestly, mad respect to every wrestler out there that has a graduate degree
Oh yeah.
because I know that is super hard
And
and I respect
expensive.
and expensive. So I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Like Britt Baker, girl, that's insane. Mad
Yeah.
respect for that.
Oh.
And I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
like Nikki Cross, like she just,
Today.
yeah,
Yep.
turned in her dissertation. I
In
was
for
like,
history, yeah.
respect.
Yeah. She might go on to a PhD. I don't know. But yeah, she has her master's. Obviously, Britt Baker still works as a dentist like during the week, every week, which is crazy to think. But here we are. But I'm curious. I feel like everybody's journey, it seems like you were kind of before you flipped the switch to wrestling. What really gravitated you to or drew your interest to psychology?
So it's actually kind of a sad story.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But
Kind
it's
of mine too.
I'm happy to share because
Yeah.
it is important to me.
Yeah.
But whenever I was in high school, I had a friend, his name was Devin Sykes. And his senior year of high school, he had lost his battle with mental health. And um, that was the first time I'd ever encountered something like that, and it really made me reflect a lot as, like, a teenager and drew me into psychology. I really felt like teenagers really didn't have someone to, like, talk to or, like, in a way that understood them. So, I really wanted to be a therapist for, um, like, troubled teens. That's really what I like what my focus wanted, like, to be. But then wrestling said, "No."
You
But
know
that's
what?
how it started.
Get that. I get that. Kind of same. Now that you have this we both have this background. I feel like, we may not use it on the daily, but I still like it still lingers with us and we obviously have that empathy in
Mhm.
there and you kind of said social media, can be a huge hindrance or or it can be positive sometimes too, but how do you keep your mental health in check if you're having like an off day or something like that?
The gym. Honestly, like, I know when you're kind of, like, down on the dumps, like, going and doing something active is not the easiest thing,
No.
but it really helps me a lot, and getting some sunshine, even if it's not, um, just going for a walk, like, that does wonders for my mental health specifically, and I try to get in, like, maybe 45 minutes of, like, just a walk around my
Yeah.
apartment complex, get some vitamin D, and just appreciate and kind of reflect, not even be on my phone, just kinda just walk, and I find that to be very helpful for me personally, and if you're feeling down on the dumps, give it a try.
Yeah. I feel like music especially too, whether it's walking. I don't know,
Mhm.
is music a part of your, like, gym routine, like, listening to it or even while you're taking a walk? I know that can be uplifting for a lot of people too.
Yes, I love Spanish music. Because, like, it's so funny because like, the words can be super sad, like, people are talking about, like, breakups and,
Yeah.
all these things, but, like, the it's so upbeat that if you're listening to it and you don't understand that you would think, like, they are talking about something happy,
Yeah.
but it's, like, this in like, crazy heartbreak, but with this, like, crazy beat,
Mhm.
so it makes you wanna, like, move, and it's something that, like, gives me a bit of nostalgia because that's the music I grew up listening to because my mom speaks Spanish, so it's like her it's a lot
Mhm.
of her favorite songs that I listen to, and so that always uplifts my mood.
Last question, who are some of your go-to or all-time artists or songs in the music realm?
Easy, easy. Mark Anthony, he's my favorite artist. My Chemical Romance, because I was a full-blown emo kid
Mhm.
in, middle and
Oh,
high
I
school.
wish I could have seen emo Hyan.
I will post it on Twitter.
Okay.
I will post it on Twitter right after, and I'll tag you in it because
Okay.
you wanted to see emo Hyan.
Yes. Oh, I'm
And,
looking forward to
um,
that.
I love me some Billy Joel.
Classic.
Master of music, Billy Joel.
I feel like that's a good mix of stuff. You know what's funny? I would say I think I have a pretty versatile music sense too. But it's good to like, you have different moods. Like sometimes you
Mhm.
want something like more soulful, sometimes you want something more upbeat, even if the lyrics are sad. And
Yeah,
then sometimes maybe you just want to be emo and like think of your nostalgia days, you know?
yeah. I remember I was in California, and I was in the car with Delilah Doom, and
I
I
love
just
her.
put, like, I love her too, and I put, like, my, iTunes on, like, shuffle or whatever, and it went from, like, Pocahontas, like,
Okay.
Colors of the Wind to, like, Drake to, like, Mark Anthony, and she was like, "I love this playlist." She was like, "This is all over the place, and I'm
Yeah.
really digging it right now."
Sometimes shuffle, sometimes it works. I don't feel like I don't use shuffle a lot. I'm so like concentrated in one thing, but I feel like shuffle, gives you a variety of things. So I'm gonna have to do that more because I'm more
Yeah,
like concentrated into like when I'm
a
feeling. I have a
playlist.
specific. I will literally make specific playlists for specific emotions or like specific genres, but I feel like shaking it up can kind of
See,
be
I'm not a
beneficial.
playlist person. Like, the
Oh,
only
that's
playlist
interesting.
I have, like, like, all Spanish
Yeah.
songs. That's the only playlist I have.
Oh.
Otherwise, Steven thinks I'm literally psychotic for this. I'm just like, shuffle, whatever
You just
happens.
have your liked songs all together.
I have,
Oh,
like, 400
interesting.
something songs, and I'm just like shuffle. What's
Sure.
what is it? Let's see what's gonna happen.
They can be a little time consuming, like making playlists. So I get that. But if it works for you, and you've
Yeah.
obviously some people have been a fan of it. So you keep doing you. I feel like
Thank
we all
you.
have different music tastes. But I'm excited. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Hyan. Of course, we have Queen of the Indies coming up this weekend. You will be taking on Masha Slamovich in the first round of the tournament. Who knows? We hope you make it all the way to the finals and win, so you can get another crown. But in the meantime, let the people know where they can find you on all your social medias.
Yes. So my Instagram account is the Hyan, TheHyan, and Twitter is the same, just with the underscore at the beginning. So underscore. Yeah.
Hyan, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And of course, we look forward to seeing you this weekend at West Coast Pros, Queen of the Indies. I am so excited.
Thank you.